I could.
Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank. Chris from Digging in the Dome. Chris
Hello.
from Invading My Home. Chris, he talks to so many people, from rappers like Lil Yachty. Am I right? Am I getting there?
Little Yachty? No.
Matthew
no.
McConaughey. I'm sorry.
Yes. All right. No, I mean we actually we had our good friend DJ Bonix, now our good friend DJ Bonix on. He's Wiz Khalifa's DJ. So we're getting we got some pretty cool guests. We got some good guests coming up. So check out Digging in the Dome if you guys want. We actually have it's funny, we always get the supporting cast or ancillary characters of someone that's like really famous. So as an example, we just had this comedian named Jiggy. Is Mark and I cannot say his last name because it's impossible. It's an Armenian name. It's Jigjarian.
Oh yeah, Jizario.
No, not Wario. I said Jigjarian. He headlined. He's headlines all across the country. He's played the Fringe Fest, but he's like most known for being in the Impractical Jokers movie. He's on their tour. So
I'm related to Joey Fatone, right?
You're related. Yeah, you said that before that you're related to Joey Fatone.
He's my third cousin.
I'd love to talk to him on the podcast. Could you hook that up?
If he comes on my show, sure.
Did he not? Will he not come on your show? Have you asked him?
No, I don't like to ask famous people to do my show. I feel like, I don't really like talking to famous people because there's something about like I can't get over that hump of like just when I see that check mark, I just get like nervous. I don't know why. I don't know. I think they're
people.
Yeah, but it turns into more questions, and I like the free flow of thought. I think so. This is what stresses me out.
Okay.
Is that there's so much information out there in the world that you're never going to be able to figure it all out. And I think that really stresses me out a little bit because so recently I had TJ, from the guy who creates Skinwalker Ranch, on my show. Well, he invited me to a Twitter space at like 3:00 in the morning last night. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to join this Twitter space. I'm going to, listen in, see what, TJ's talking to all these people about. And I joined this UFO community, and I really appreciate the UFO community. But people go like, well, they talk about this dude says he works for NSA or works for some type of thing.
Right.
And I look at his thing. He's written multiple books that have been published, like Pentagon style stuff. And he starts talking about like, well, actually there's different theories of what is called this futuristic tech. Part of it's the government, then part of it's also what they call future people. And it's like, these are people that are able to use dimensional travel to be able to go back in time. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like, I start losing my mind, and they start going down these rabbit holes where like, this is the crazy thing, is it's like if somebody, if you look up the gender thing, I'm not trying to get into the whole gender topic, but if you look up the gender thing, there's a thing called bun self. So there's an article, and they start talking about how you can identify as a bunny, how you can identify all these types of things. And they go, now, to clarify as a disclaimer, we don't know if this is someone being mean or if this is legit, because it gets so out there.
You don't know, like, that people are just doing it for the sake of like, is it satire? Are they poking fun of it, parodying it, saying, I identify as a banana?
Yes. So
like, why?
But there's an actual case where someone has done that before, like identifying themselves as a cat or something. But with the UFO community, it's the same thing, where it's like, you heard like people in the Twitter space go, are you fucking with us? Like, are you fucking with, because the guy's talking about interdimensional travel, future beings, past beings, being able to use these types of things, creating this machine that can actually distort your mass, be able to like make your particles in your body. And he went into a full thing at like 2:00 in the morning. So I'm trying to soak in as much as possible.
So wait, so he said that there's something that you can use to like change the mass of your body?
So he created this machine that's sitting on his table. Apparently he does some other podcast. I'm sure it's a great show. I've never heard of it. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he starts going, it's called a vag. And I'm like,
a vag?
Right. Is it, what do you mean of that? And he called it like vertical arrow, a bunch of things, a bunch of acronyms. So he sounded foolproof with it, but I'm like,
you should go to Shark Tank and try to use it to like get people hey, do you want a bigger dick? I'm going to use the vag on you.
But there are so many people that were in the group there that were like, are you fucking with us? That were friends of his. And he's like, no, I'm being 100% serious. And it's like, it's so hard to tell. And
I would have been like, show me your vag.
That's the thing, is that you can't, and it's a group of experiencers. So like, I'm sitting there like listening to these people tell their stories, and it's hard because you're like, I don't want to laugh, because if this is something that's sensitive, it's kind of like laughing at a rape. You can't.
Right. You're like, what you don't want to be is, and that's hard. It's I get hard when I'm around the veg.
That's a
But
cheap one, dude. That's fucking cheap as shit.
I was sitting right out there. I had to take it. But no, but your point is well taken in that like you don't want to be insulting to people, and especially nowadays where it's not so black and white in terms of like this is meant to be funny and parody, and then some people be like, no, I legitimately have this machine that does this thing, and so you don't know, and because trolling is so pervasive, people could just be trolling you. You have no idea. He could have been trolling you. You have no idea unless you see the badge. You're not going to know that it exists.
Well, it's the issue with like just so much information that's out there is that everyone's going down these rabbit holes where you start realizing is you think that you know so much about something, then you next thing you know you don't really. Like I thought I know a lot about the CCP government. I thought I knew extremely more than maybe an average person would know. But then I'm now trying to talk to people who are into Chinese politics and trying to decipher their side of it, because it's a whole different perspective, because they don't really necessarily look at the bads. They more look at like the goods of what happens from it. And it's like I never even noticed that because it's so hard to get past all like the slave camp shit.
Is there like, and again, you have to think about like, could you have the good without having that bad? Like, did I need to have all the like to your point, like the slave labor and the very restrictive government, and just like all that control? Is it possible that you can get all the positives? And I'm not even sure, you mentioned the positive. Interesting to hear what you think the positives are, or what people would maybe perceive or say are the positives around that. Just because on the surface it would seem, and maybe part of it is that we get propagandized essentially by the information and the information that we receive without actually doing the additional research, which is why I like you, because you've openly said what you like to do is to dive into things that you don't know and then just come into it with a curious mind, which is what you should do. And then not really take it and judge it at face value. You may have had a preconceived notion about what you felt about that at the time, but then that could have changed because of the experience that you have with somebody. Now, they could also be bullshitting you and saying and trying to paint a rosier picture. So to a degree, you have to take it with a grain of salt and still kind of keep that balance. But
that's the issue with most of these people, like Yeonmi Park, who's like the most popular North Korean defector. There's people that know what the situation is over there. She's not lying. She's being honest, but they'll call her a liar and make her seem like a liar only because they have family that's still in that country. So if they say, oh, yeah, she's right, then their family's going to be attacked. And it's like, then it's so hard to know what the fucking truth is. Like, I thought Jim Carrey was just a guy from like Dumb and Dumber movies or Bruce Almighty. Then he has that giant thing. It was an article that just resurfaced. It was from like 4 years ago, where he's at the People's Choice Awards or whatever the hell it was. And he goes, none of this matters. What is an identity? All this is bullshit. Everyone here is bullshit. This award is bullshit. I shouldn't even get this thing. And you start looking at like, it's like he went clear. Like he saw that the grand scheme of things, all this is just for show. It doesn't matter. And then
it doesn't matter for him.
That really resonated with me, because when I was talking to TJ, I didn't notice in the back of his video, he had 2 of those Emmy things, the people holding up the Gold Globe things.
Oh, yeah.
I never even questioned it, but I asked him about it afterwards. I was like, what is that? And he goes, they don't really mean like how you think once you win your first one, it's like, oh my God, it's going to open up doorways. He goes, it doesn't do shit. It just sits there. And I'm like, oh my God, like how many people are trying to aspire to something that necessarily, once they understand what it actually means, it has no value at all. But you have this built up into your head because TV shows you. You get on stage, you win the award. But it's like being at the
that's
Olympics.
Gonna be it. That's gonna be it. You're gonna be literally unstoppable. Your life is set. You're not gonna have any, like, and you're right in that, like, people do have that preconceived notion of,
oh God, he froze on my screen.
Outside of this. So what I was saying, like the actual, this idea of like money, like if I don't have money for a period of time, I live within my means, right? And then if I start to get more money, all of a sudden my capacity to spend increases and I still live within my means. And then if I go even further and get rich and now are millionaire or multi-millionaire, I'm going to still live within my means and still be like, it's until you get like actual wealth. It's not like you can't transcend that and say, there's no way I can ever lose this stuff. Or I feel like I've gotten to the point in which like I'm completely stable. And a lot of that stuff is internalized. And I think that people do the same thing with those kinds of awards. Like, hey, I've just crest this one mountain. There are a lot of people that are Emmy winners that they have regular jobs because it didn't really lead to anything. And the thought was, I'm going to crest this hill and that's going to be that. And oftentimes that's not the case.
Well, it's kind of like the Olympics, like when they had that Russian doping scandal and they went back to every
Oh,
single
right.
Olympic athlete that got like second or third place. And they were like, actually, you won gold. And they were like, I don't care. And it's like, well, you get the gold medal. It's like, I wanted it in front of everybody, in front of my family to see that I won gold. But
Right.
necessarily having a gold medal, I'll sell this to a pawn shop. It doesn't mean shit now.
Right.
Besides the title of being like a gold Olympic athlete, the whole thing is about the moment. And that's why I think there was a giant push for like non-fungible tokens of trying to buy
Yeah.
moments of time. And it's
Yep.
like, dude, imagine if time travel's real, if that guy's fucking right. And you're
Yeah.
just like, there's future people going back onto past people. But then it's like, what is our definition of I don't know. I'm losing my shit. I saw Jim Carrey, the man who played in Dumb and Dumber. He goes, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah.
And that's
Ace Ventura.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fucking pet detectives telling me that none of this fucking matters
Uh,
in the grand scheme of things.
well, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, like, am I going to take my life advice entirely from the pet detective? It's not even. It's not even. He's a person. He's an actor, and actually, he is a much better actor than he gets credit for. He's done some really interesting, good roles. He was really good in Man on the Moon. He was really good in The Truman Show. Like, he's done films where he's had there were serious roles. What was that one? Eternal something of the Spotless Mind, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or something like that. He's done serious roles. So it's not like he's not a talented guy, not a smart guy, not and not worthy of listening to him. But it's but everyone has a voice now, right? Everybody's got a voice to be able to because you have things like Twitter, you have
Hang
podcasts.
on. We entered a crazy time when we started expecting people that necessarily were public figures to be doing more than what they were public figures for. Like, it's
Right.
very, very weird
Acting,
when
right.
rappers are like, how could he say that such a like an anti-homophobic slur? It's like, well, hang on a second. Do we expect our rappers to be good members of society? They were basically
Yeah.
known for like shooting and killing people and
They were in
having
gangs.
fights.
Like, yeah, we stayed there. All the whole story about I'm gonna fuck this bitch. I'm gonna slap that hoe. I'm gonna shoot this dude. Like and rob this place.
Make her
Like,
choke on a pillow is like a major thing Biggie used
yeah,
to talk about. So
yeah.
I start looking at this thing as like, I think we're putting unrealistic expectations and then we get really upset and we want to attack this person that necessarily we put that into our head. And I think it's because what we deemed as public figures for so long were like presidents. Like I'm waiting for the day. Like, I think Trump kind of wrecked it for everything. He was
Mhm.
like the first person who wasn't this like straight, like squeaky clean character as far as we
Right.
knew, but like persona or appearance wise. And you get this outburst of celebrity personality. Then we get
Yep.
someone that's in office now that necessarily might not know where he's at all times. And then
Right.
I start to look at like, I think now we just are we're on this discourse or we're on this trend of just trying to put like our identity, our I guess character or our perspective of what a superhero should be. Used to
Right.
be Superman. Then that
Right.
Superman went to like maybe our parents, and then our parents kind of went down to the aspect of like our teachers, and then our teachers started doing all these scandals where they were molesting young kids, and then next thing
Oh,
you know,
do you hear about the lingerie party?
there's another one.
There was a
What happened?
no, so these teachers, we just talked about it on the last episode we recorded just on Tuesday. There's these teachers that, or Thursday, sorry, these teachers that apparently were having getting lap dances by students in lingerie, and there's video of it. So
Oh wait, that was a prank. Those were guys, weren't they, that were doing that on the girl teachers?
I don't know if it was guys or girl or whatever it was, but whatever happened, there's some kind of, no matter what, even if
It's
you're just
children.
fucking about,
It's fucking
it's children. They're children in scantily clad, and they're rubbing their bodies on a
Look,
teacher.
I had a middle school teacher that I did want to fuck pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like one or two. Like, it's very interesting, like, because you always like pick the one or two out. Like, yeah, I would absolutely. And I remember there was and this was like in like sixth grade or something like that. My math teacher, she was like smoking hot, and I was, yeah, dude, I
You get her
definitely
drop a
would've.
pencil or something. And then
Oh,
have to
dude,
pick
she
it
always
up.
used to wear like black skirts and like
Oh,
she always, like,
she
dude, like,
fucking wanted it. Didn't
yeah, well, I mean, in my brain, but the crazy part would have been like if she was like, yeah, come on, bring that sixth grade dick over here and stick it in me. Like, but there's people that are like that, like.
Well, it's weird because if you look at the cases of things that happen, like if you look at the movie That's My Boy, when it's a woman doing it to a younger guy, it's like, you had
You're like,
sex
yeah.
with my 14-year-old son, and then you would high five your 14-year-old son. And
You're
but
like,
if it
yeah,
was
good
the
job, dude.
opposite way around, like gender
Oh,
wise,
murder.
bruh.
Yeah, you're in deep shit. Yeah, you
Going to
touch my
fucking
daughter's
prison.
dead. No, you're not making it to prison. I'll kill you. But the fact that these people, even if it was a joke, let's say it was a joke, the fact that you videotaped it and now that is everywhere, you can't unring that bell. It's like being accused of rape and not actually being a rapist. You're always going to carry that stigma around with you no matter what, because people are going to say, well, you may have gotten off, but the only thing that someone could maybe see is a headline, right? And
I don't know how we got into this weird fucking rabbit hole, but I got a good story. So
okay, go.
The state over from me, I
Mhm.
think in Delaware, there was a it was a girl teacher with a younger student who was like 16, 17. They had been like flirting and sexting each other back and forth. And then she got caught. And I think she got a fine of like something like maybe like a close to like $600, $700 or something like that for some type of like weird line that got drawn since he was so close to 18. Then the opposite happened in my old high school where it was like a 17-year-old girl and then an older guy. And that dude has been labeled as a fucking pedophile. I think he went to like jail for like 6 months or something like that. And I'm like, that's the best fucking clearest example. Is like people talk about we need to be equality and sex.
It's a double standard.
It's a fucking goes back
and
forth.
Double standard. It's a double standard. And but it's because, again, to your point, it's like more, and that's kind of like I would say misogynistic to a degree, because it kind of is. Like you say, like, well, if a guy's gonna somehow win over a much older woman and give it to her, that's fine. But if you're touching a young lady, I mean, we had a teacher in my high school that he was a girl, and of course he was the girls basketball coach, so you could have seen that coming around the fucking corner. Like, he got pinched for fucking kids, and and everyone says this guy's a scumbag, but it is very much a double standard and slightly misogynistic to say, well, on the one side it's fine, but on the other side it's not.
Happens if it's a coach, like a guy coach, and then a younger boy student.
Well, that happens too. Like fucking, that's the whole Penn State thing. Like that was the Sandusky thing.
But so many people were trying to protect him. So either he had some type of MK Ultra thing running in his basement that he was brainwashing all these kids to love him. But there was like, you think that like why would you defend if you knew that was going on? And it's like, well, I think he was such a good coach. I'm like, what did he fucking do?
Oh, he's coaching young boys how to do what they're told. Really follow instructions, I guess. Look, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like, people can be good coaches and be pieces of shit. Look at what John Gruden just did. I mean, and it's not like they went back and they looked at, I'm not sure if you're aware of what I'm talking about, but they went back and John Gruden is the coach, or was the coach of the Oakland Raiders. They had just signed him to a 10-year, like $100 and some odd million deal. Right. So this guy, and they started off, the Raiders were like 4-1 or 3-1, and they're having a great season. And then all of a sudden, emails from 10 years ago, when Gruden was an analyst for ESPN, I think, or Monday Night Football, was in the emails calling Roger Goodell, who's the commissioner of the NFL, a faggot and a non-football pussy. So like, he's just saying, and then more shit came. There was like, people were like, well, and then people were kind of defending him, like saying same thing, like, hey, it's out of context and he was just joking around or whatever. And then some more shit came out where he was saying some very, very unpleasant things about African-American people and gay people. So like it just all of a sudden it blew up, and now he resigned and that's that. He's done. But people were and still are kind of defending the guy and saying, I never had a problem with him. He was a good coach. This is just him in his private life. That's the real Gruden, the guy that you see in the email. But when he is on the field, or when he's obviously, he compartmentalizes it and doesn't let that kind of eke out into his professional life. Doesn't mean he's a bad coach. It just means that as a person, he's kind of a piece of shit, So you get, there's a separation of that, like, work and personal stuff, like, because a lot of people keep that shit under wraps. You know what I mean?
Work and personal stuff's like, don't mix your fucking, don't take your what would be mixing? That's not, I wouldn't classify that as mixing work and personal.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're somewhat being disingenuous if you're not being yourself, right?
It's like letting your peas touch your mashed potatoes. That's not the same thing. That's like letting a dick touch someone's vagina accidentally. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just gonna press the helmet against it. Don't worry, I won't put it in.
It accidentally slipped in the ass.
Well, dude, and by the way, first of all, it's so funny. That's a tried and true like method of trying to fuck, which is hey, I'm just gonna put the tip in, which is a goddamn lie, and everybody knows it, including the girl. Like, she's not. There's no girl that's dumb enough to think, he's just gonna put the tip in, and then like, whoa, that was the whole thing. Like they know. Just don't be honest. Like, look, I was going to tell you I'm going to put the tip in, but you know what's going to happen after that. The rest of it's going in and then out and then in and then out and then and so on and so forth.
I don't know how we got to this weird spot, but
well, we're talking about like people not being genuine, like not being themselves necessarily.
I just wish people would be honest. Like, if you're a piece of shit, tell me how you really feel. But then it gets so complicated when they become trolls as well, too. I don't think anybody's inherently a piece of shit, even like psycho killers. I just think there's a misstep or there's something that they're not receiving. I mean, we all agree on the same thing, which is how we base on who's outside of the norm or who's out this side. And like, I do have lines obviously drawn. I think everybody has a line drawn when it comes to kids. But then there's
they should.
There's an aspect of like, when does that become empathetic? Like, when do we, like, there's people.
When do we have empathy for people like that? You mean like for pedophiles? I think that if you understand that is a mental illness, like that's something that there's a compulsion they cannot control.
Yeah.
You have to come from a place of understanding to a degree. Like, I understand why you guys are saying like, hey, this is a terrible thing. But I think that psychologists would tell you like, okay, there's a chemical imbalance in this person's brain, and I'm going to try to correct it and control it with, medicine. So it's about your ability to, because it's if you have compulsions or urges to do the wrong thing, which everyone has something, not on the level of pedophilia, but whether you're like a kid and you're like, I'm just gonna steal this candy. Maybe I should steal the candy. Should I not? Like put it in your pocket and then walk out what would happen? And then something in your head says, I probably shouldn't do that. And then you don't. Or if you don't have control over that and you really, really want to, and the compulsion is strong, then you do. And then you're taking that risk. So it's just a matter of the willpower of the individual to be able to say, can I stop myself from the thing that I know is wrong, but I really want to do? And that's the same thing with the pedophiles to a degree. They have a compulsion. They can't stop themselves. It doesn't mean that they're not dangerous. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be put away. It doesn't mean that that also doesn't mean that they shouldn't be tried. You shouldn't try to help them and figure out a way to be able to fix that problem. If you think about going back in history, I mean,
how the fuck did we get here? Jesus.
I'm
trying to find the pedophile escape route, but we keep going down, and then I'm listening to you talk. I'm like, God damn it, he's making some sense.
Well, it's not like, look, it's not in defense of pedophilia. I think it's just, you asked about the empathy. Where does the empathy come in? I think with anybody, even people that are killers, to your point, there's a reason that they're kind of charming, and there's a reason that they seem like they're normal people. And that's always seem like such a normal person. It's because mostly they are a normal person. It's just that part of them that they can't control. They can't stop themselves. It is insatiable hunger that they have to satiate and have to feed, or they might lose their mind.
Well, it's a double standard as well too, that we see the common people doing it, but then when the politicians do it, it goes away like it was fucking nothing.
Right. Well, they don't, but that's because they have protections. And talk about being emboldened. It's kind of like actors too. So have you ever do you know who Armie Hammer is?
Yeah, I know who Armie Hammer is. He tried to eat his ex-girlfriend, or try to eat his girlfriend's fucking rib.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Which is, I mean, you're rich. You could probably just afford actual ribs. Yeah, I guess
what would you do though if you were in love with someone so much, or you had $1 million? What would you do? Would you pay someone just to eat their rib if you really felt like it, or would you just do something fucking else? Like, why can't you just build a man, it's gonna.
There's more productive things to do with your time and money.
It's a weird time in society right now. Like, I'm just picturing Angelina Jolie giving up all those kids she adopted, just like giving them back. Like, fuck it, everything's opposite day now. I'm gonna give all the kids back. It's like, but they're over 18. Doesn't matter.
Well, do you like have to find your receipt and bring it back and say, well, here, I'm bringing these kids back just for store credit. Here's my receipt. Like, I don't get that. Like, you can't. These are children. They're not tangible items that I could bring back to Lowe's. Oh, I bought too much stain from my banister. Let me bring this back and get a store credit. She's taking people who I would assume adopted them out of love, and now is saying, well, now that we've gotten to the point where you're adults, you're no longer in my family. Goodbye.
When do you draw the line though? Like, if you're gonna adopt a bunch of kids, and let's say you had Angelina Jolie money, and she's just going to hire servants possibly to take care
Oh,
of
for
them, and then
sure.
she would go out for pictures. But when do you draw a line of like, well, we actually need you as the mother or the parent of these kids now to actually be there, so we're only going to have to limit you to two? And it's like, you don't want me to save all these children? No, it's because you're not going to give them the individual attention. You might give them a home, but what's that home if it's empty?
Well, and you're basically, your parents, to your point, are your au pairs or your nannies, not really your parents or your quote unquote, your adopted parents.
It's the goddamn Vince Vaughn movie, Delivery Man, where
Oh
he
yeah,
just
yeah,
starts
yeah,
donating
yeah.
to all these sperm banks. The next thing you know, he's
Yes,
got like
he's got
400
like,
something kids.
yeah, he's got kids everywhere. Exactly, a bunch of Vince Vaughns walking around in
If you were,
swinger shirts.
all right, if you had to either rob a bank or
Hmm.
donate sperm, knowing that it's going to end up, you're going to have a bunch of kids later down the road that you're going to get bought, which one would you choose?
No, so if I
That was a terrible two choices on the spot.
no,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
like I'm gonna rob a bank, or I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. I guess that's probably what
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna do.
I don't know because I don't feel like
I'm not gonna go to jail for coming. I don't think, unless it's on a child, as
it's
we said earlier.
hang on, it's kind of like the question of like, if you had two apples, would you give one away? I don't necessarily know if I want to give away my apples.
Well, but if well, think about it this way: there are people in this world, and I know a couple of people. Um, my cousin Pam, who died unfortunately a long time ago
I'm so
from breast
sorry.
cancer. That's okay. She was trying to have kids, and so she was using hormones and stuff like that. It's pretty much a guarantee that the medicines that she was taking to try to have children gave her cancer. It definitely didn't help, and it's known that like some of those hormone enhancements and stuff like that can actually lead to that. But people are desperate to have a child, so it's like, if someone doesn't have, if they have a low sperm count, and now you're able to provide them with a child, they can carry the child in them and have a baby. I'm not like totally against that. I think that that's cool. But it can't be coming with, again, you're the actual genetic, and that's why they don't let you know who the donator is, because you don't want that child to go back and try to find the
Well,
delivery man.
they don't let the kid know, but they have a picture, like a catalog. Like everything's
Yeah,
fucking marketing. They have a
of course.
catalog over there. They go, oh, this person looks handsome, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Well, do they have any medical things wrong with them? And that's why
Hmm.
you see kids trying to track down their adopted or their real biological parents so they can
Right.
find out if they have any medical things. Like, am I going to lose my hair when I'm 40?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. Like, I think that that's okay. But like, does it also look, there's a reason why animals like have a connection to their biological parents, right? It is, but I don't know what you would necessarily call it, if it's pheromones, or if it any chemical, or if it's something a little bit more, a higher power, more metaphysical, and more about the spirit and the connection to the spirit. It's one of those, it's something, right? So if you did connect into your biological parent that donated sperm, as an example, wouldn't there be a compulsion there too, for you to be like, well, I want to get to know this guy, or I want to get to, and I want to understand more about them besides the medical stuff. I want to know essentially, where do I come from outside of the half that is my mom? It's kind of
Well,
like an artificial insemination too, where they actually take the egg and the sperm, if someone really can't get, and put it into a surrogate.
Well,
It's the
that's
same
just the
thing.
way your mind works, though. It's the same way
Mhm.
my mind works. But for some people, they just want to get alcohol and they don't give a fuck if they have kids, or they don't know where, they don't even care where they're at.
No, no, they don't care. And they're all, yeah, exactly. So sometimes people it's like, hey, I'm going to donate
So, with all
whatever.
this bullshit that we just said for the past 30 minutes, does this not lead into a bigger effect of like, why do we have laws that govern a mass amount of population of people? And then we're surprised when they don't work for fucking everyone, considering that nobody fucking thinks the same? Is that
Yep.
insane to even just suggest or question? Like, I'm questioning a lot of shit now where I'm like, we're doing a double standard. We're fucking podcasters acting
Hmm.
like kind of a journalistic type thing. We're giving our opinions, but someone could receive this as like it's information. They're writing it down, writing a fucking blog. But
Hmm.
then I'm going to expect my TV shows to always teach me something. Family Guy has taught me more fucking things than the fucking news has. I was trying to think of like what would be like a cool thing. Like I would love to create skits where it would just be a bunch of random shit that like nobody would be like, what the fuck am I watching? But it was so addicting you'd want to watch it. So I have two movie pitches. One I
Okay.
pitched TJ. I was
Mhm.
telling TJ, I was like, you should make a show about dreams. And he's like, what do you
Mhm.
mean dreams? I'm like, each individual person has like some dream that's fucking crazy that no one else could even think of.
Mhm.
And then it would just be entertaining to watch for a first time. And then you would animate the dream. And as you were explaining it and like narrating it, I'm going to ask you about your dream as well, too. But then the other thing is like, imagine if you just had a bunch of skits where I was thinking of like, there was this girl that walked into my gym. She's really attractive. She was on
Mhm.
the elliptical. And I was
Mhm.
telling my coworker, I was like, dude, I was like, about to go ask her out. He's like, dude, just go over there and ask her out. I was like, not on the fucking elliptical, man. You got to wait till
Yeah.
she gets done. And
Yeah.
he goes,
Yeah.
no, just act like you're cleaning the thing right beside her.
Uh,
And then say, hey. And I was like, no, my luck, the fucking arm for the elliptical hits me in the eye. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, you stupid fucking bitch. And just fucking, and I was like, that would be the greatest skit ever if you just had that fucking happen.
Oh, just the comedy of errors, as they call it. You know, you're trying to do something and you try to be cool, and then it just doesn't work. And on top of it, which is what is even more, have even more comedic value, is I thought better of it and didn't want to do it because I thought it would not go well. But I had somebody next to me convincing me that it was the absolute right thing to do. And then when I come back to them, they call me an asshole for doing it. You look like a fool. It's like, oh, you were the one that suggested it. I didn't want to fucking do it. Then I got my eye fucking blackened and I called her a bitch. So now I'm definitely not dating her.
That was the comedic effect I wanted to get, was like, just, oh, fuck, are you okay? Oh, get away from me. It's just like, what the hell?
You stupid whore. Oh, I mean, would you like to go get coffee? That's not what I meant at all. Yeah, well, I mean, and it could happen. You never know. Like it's we were just talking about remakes, because there's a bunch of remakes that are coming out, and one of the things that we do on the podcast sometimes is, because we have the topic randomizer in it, and it landed on Ungrind My Gears. Speaking of a Family Guy kind of reference, Ungrind My Gears. So grinding my gears is something that really pisses me off, obviously. So ungrinding my gears is, with the purpose of that particular topic randomizer landing spot, is you have to defend something that you don't really like, you actually think the opposite of. So you have to basically defend a position that you're not comfortable defending. You have to basically take the opposite
Defend
side of something you believe in.
pedophilia.
Well, that you could potentially, right? So you have to like say, but I wouldn't. That would be a really, really hard one to land on. Fortunately, you get to choose what you want to ungrind your gears
It's like defending OJ. The guy was just
exactly.
like, fuck.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he was successfully defended. Technically, you know, he got off.
Well, it's like Epstein's lawyer. He talked about it. He, in the documentary with Epstein, he was just like, I didn't even want to hear about the actual facts on his side or what they got against him. All I was here was, I'm going to try and get this guy off. That was the whole job.
That is the job of a defense attorney, is not to really be judgmental. You can't, and it's why that profession is difficult. Like, I was going to school for law. I was going to be a lawyer. And then I actually started getting into the system and seeing what it looked like to be actually a lawyer. And it's not obviously it's mostly just paperwork and not a lot of like courtroom work. The amount of things that actually, when you go to court, a lot of it's through summary judgment. A lot of it is like settlement, and a lot of it's pushing, and it takes a long time because people are filing motions. And
I just won my court case yesterday.
What were you fighting?
I was appealing overbalance on my unemployment, because apparently they went back and like checked for everybody. They sent, I mean, people were getting like $10,000 they owed back. Luckily, mine was only $2,400, but I don't even spend $5 on something to treat myself. So trying to get $2,400 out of me, I was like, I'm taking this right to the fucking top. I was in the call, and the thing is, it was on the phone.
Right.
So
a Zoom one.
They were like, you refused work in April. And like, I was like, well, April of what, 2020? They're like, yeah, in April 2020. I was like, how does that? I was like, can you reread that for me? And the judge was like, it says you refusal of work was in April 2020. I was like, one more time. And she goes, because it's on the phone. They don't see my videos, so I can't give them the sad eyes. So I just have to. And I knew I wasn't wrong. And they go, in April of 2020, Mr. Robertson, you failed to look for work. You denied looking for work. And I go, can I just have one question. How could I fail looking for work? Only because nothing was open, because everything was shut down in March, and it didn't open up until June, late June. So that means nothing was open. I couldn't.
Yeah. What kind of job was I supposed to get?
And she goes, okay, that aside. And I was like, that aside, that's my best piece of evidence.
Well, that's the only thing that matters. So you're saying that I should put myself in physical peril to go find a job.
There was nothing open unless you were a hospital worker.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything.
This was like middle of the pandemic. And she goes, that aside, I was like, that's my best piece of evidence. And she goes, do you have any dates? I was like, no, because I didn't expect to be in court 2 years fucking later almost.
Right.
And then she goes, okay. And like there's a delay on the phone. So as I would talk, she would cut me off. She'd interrupt me like, sir, that's not the question. And then she'd stop because my voice would keep going and I'd be done talking. And then she'd go, sir, you got to listen to me. And I'm like, I'm not talking. And then that would interrupt her again. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get a guilty sentence. I'm not even fucking guilty. And
I'm going to lose.
Towards the end, she's like, I get it. You're nervous. And I was like, yeah, that's what I am. But she was like, you need to answer my question. You're not answering my question. I'm like, I'm fucking trying. I'm fucking trying to. Like, I'm listening there. Like, I'm really trying.
There's a delay on the phone. What the hell do you want from me, lady? Jesus Christ.
She was supposed to mail the results in, but I got a text message on my phone saying, check my portal on my unemployment thing. I was like, okay. And I checked it and it was like, no overpayment balance. I was like, I guess I fucking won.
You're like, victory. Victory is mine.
I beat State of Maryland and John Hopkins. I'm 2-0. Let's fucking go. Somebody shoot somebody. I will fucking represent you.
Don't shoot anybody. You just said we're going to be people like take our stuff serious. Like,
shoot. I take that back. Rob a bank. Please don't hurt anybody.
Please do not try to rob the bank with like the littlest amount of violence or perceived violence or threat of violence as possible, if you can.
Would you prefer that if you went back? Would you want to stay in law school? Where do you think that would have turned out? Do you think you would have represented shady characters?
No, because what I was going to. So I worked for, like, when I was going to school for law, I worked for the public defender's office in Woodbury, New Jersey. And the thing that was really interesting about that was, first of all, that was probably the best experience in law that I had, was working there, because you got to, I mean, literally I'd be going into jails, interviewing people about their cases and getting like the baseline information so that the public defender had the information they needed. And it was amazing how absolutely honest these people were. Like, I was like, so it says here, this is assault with a deadly weapon. What was the deadly weapon?
A brick's not a deadly weapon. It's a building material.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was doing masonry work. It's not my fault that brick happened to smash the side of that person's temple. That was an accident. Okay. But they're like, okay, so what happened? So I got mad at my girlfriend and I stabbed her in her arm and then in her back. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm just writing this shit down. I'm like, all right, like, very honest. Like, this is what I did, because especially, and this is going back now, like, you know, probably 23 years, 24 years before, like, you know, like the way the I don't know, the information, like the understanding of like how DNA and evidence is easily collected, that cameras are everywhere. Like, this is before all this. This guy was just like dead honest. He's like, I did it, because he knew that he probably was not going to get that. The best he could hope for was some kind of a pleaing it down. Right. But like, it was a cool experience because I got to go and like see these people and talk to them. And they were just people. Like we said before, it's like that moment in time they fucked up, but they were just people. And they were, like, you could see the guy was contrite. He loved his girlfriend, or he said he did. And he was like, and the girlfriend, interestingly, postscript to that, was dropped all the charges against him. Right. I guarantee you that more domestic violence probably followed after that, because she just said, yeah, well, you know, I'm going to take it. And a lot of people do that. But back to your question, what would I don't think that I'd be a lawyer, just because when I went to, I'll say this, if I didn't go to work on the way into law school, go to work for a class action firm, maybe I would have been a lawyer, because
it's just,
they were really scumbags. They were like the worst people I've ever.
One thing I noticed, even if it was on the phone for me, like, they make it like, even you defending yourself or something, it already makes you feel like you're guilty. And I'm like, I'm not guilty though, but
I didn't do anything. Right.
Yeah. But there's this questioning process that gets involved with it, where you're like, fuck, like, I didn't do anything, but damn it. Do I not have is there no truth? Is there no justice? Am I just going to have to take a plea? And that's what happens with a lot of these. Like, I listen to the Innocence Project, and they talk about a lot of people that were wrongfully convicted for like life
Mm-hmm.
in prison, and they talk about it like they don't have the materials to be able to get that. They don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
find a lawyer. They don't know how to work the system. They don't know who to call. They don't know where to talk to because they never thought they'd be in this situation until it happened to them. And I'm like,
Right.
man, like you would think that like. I mean, it's probably hard because if you look at like OJ, I'm gonna keep
Mm-hmm.
referencing OJ because he's like
Yeah,
the
you
one
love
case
it.
I saw. The dude fucking chopped somebody's head off. Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how is that guy fucking free? Like, where's the fucking justice in that? And it's like, well, we don't
Yeah.
know if he did it or not. I'm like, well, then how can we determine that? Like,
Well,
how?
it's because of the burden of proof in the particular case when you're talking about a capital crime, where something is gonna, it, like you have to have. It's not. There's different levels of standard of proof. There's preponderance of the evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt, right? And there's other ones below that, but those are the two main ones that people really kind of talk about. So the preponderance of the evidence is it seems like it happened, but you can't apply that into a capital case because there's so much on the line. If I'm saying somebody killed somebody, I can't use the preponderance of the evidence. I can't use circumstantial evidence. I can't use hearsay evidence. I can't use any of that stuff to kind of prove that case because, and really you can't really use hearsay evidence anyway in court. But that's why in civil, when he was sued civilly, he lost,
Well,
right?
didn't he get in
Because
trouble for robbing or getting his
of
trophies
memorabilia.
back?
Yeah, he was found guilty of because there was enough evidence that proved that he was in fact guilty. Now, realistically, if you watch and study that case, the OJ case, the real problem was there was procedural things that were done incorrectly by the police. There were the prosecution completely dropped the ball. Like the glove, putting the glove on, and that like the glove not fitting. Oh,
Yeah, it
if the
was. I
glove
mean,
don't fit, you must acquit.
I have
Remember that shit?
I have shoes that fit, but I can make them not fit by barely putting my fucking foot into it.
Well, the thing was that glove had been sitting in evidence for so long, and it was soaked in blood, right? And it was so like, but it shrunk because of the material. It shrunk. It got smaller. So even if it was like, it would make sense to say, hey, if I put this thing on, it's not going to fit anymore because it's been sitting in evidence for God only knows how long. So he got off partly because of a procedural misstep and saying you could use the evidence and not take it out of the goddamn bag and say try it on. You could just have it as it's there. If that's the argument, it's like, well, this is not his glove. Well, then we can go down that road. But I don't think taking it out of the bag and saying, hey, let's try it on, see if it fits, really makes a whole lot of sense in any.
We got his fingerprints. Like he touched it.
Yeah, exactly. Then now, yeah, exactly. Now you're tampering with the evidence. But that's the thing. When you see a lot of these people that get off on those kinds of crimes, it's typically because a procedural mistake. They didn't Mirandize them. They did something. They messed up the crime scene. So people are like, do not touch my crime scene. Please stay away from it. Let me take all the things that they need to. Because that's the other thing about like forensics can be very easily debunked when people fuck the crime scene up. Like if you didn't take care in the crime scene, people just kind of drop, walk all over it, or get some of their tamper, the evidence isn't properly sealed or properly logged or something like that. Evidence gets lost mysteriously.
What I think is another major factor as well too. Is that I think back in the day they used to have a thing called truth wizards, which are people that were able to be like detect bullshit, like if someone's feeding you a story or not being truthful, and they were appointed as cops and judges, and that kind of got lost along the way because then there were certain key moments in history, at least in the States, where they needed essential people. They just needed bodies, so they needed people. So they were hiring people off the street for just doing or not off the street, but off of like a lower branch, help them push them through the system to be able to become a judge or a cop or something, to be able to rush and get more people on the streets to help fight these scenarios that they were dealing with. When that happened, I think it opened up the door to just everyone and anyone. And I think this is where we get people that can be manipulated with money. Like, it was weird watching the Derek Chauvin trial. When I was watching that judge, he did not give a fuck about the police. He didn't give a fuck about the person that was dealing with. He only gave a fuck about the case. And that's what everyone kept recommending. Like, he's not, the judge is not here for bullshit. And it's like, you start seeing like, that's a person that didn't have anything invested on either side. All he cared about was finding the fucking truth and who's going to pay the price for whatever is going to happen. And like, that was just, it was like the most clear of like, that's people that used to be judges. When I was on that phone call, I asked her, I was like, why isn't this on Zoom? I've never done this on the phone before. Like, I felt like I was in a scam. And
Right.
she goes, because we're doing a bunch of these today. This is a small case thing. We could just do it over the phone. I go, but how are you going to be able to see that I'm being truthful? You can tell by my fucking face if I'm
Hmm.
fucking lying to you. Anybody, I mean, I can sense that. Is it not a normal thing to be able to sense that? It's like
I think so.
when you're sitting there with OJ, does it look like he's giving you a fucking story? When I'm watching the thing, I'm like, damn it, like I'm watching it. And I'm like, I don't know if it's the camera angles, but if I was in person and I could sense the energy that he was giving off, did he feel upset about the situation or did he just not give a fuck? Where you start wondering, is this person insane? Where I'm picturing like the only answer we're ever going to get is when he starts suffering from CTE. And the next thing you know, he starts
Yeah.
releasing, I killed
Well,
that fucking lady.
did you see, so the book, If I Did It, or that
Yeah, they made the
special that
if really, really small.
yeah, if I did it. But he was on, like, even when you saw the that special, if you watch the special of him like kind of walking through if he had done it, like what it would be like. And then but he slipped up like so many times during that. But here's the problem. He was tried, and that he was found not guilty. You can't, they're double jeopardy. You can't go back and try him again. So it's over. Like, that's it. Like, you're done, man. Like, you can't go back and try to get him for that same murder. He's gonna get he never get tried for that again. So he could say whatever the fuck he wants, really, technically, and they can't do anything about it because of the double jeopardy law. That's part of it. But there's benefit to saying, like, hey, don't keep trying me for the same shit over and over again until you get me. Especially if I want to try to another 12 people to make a judgment on whether or not I did it.
It's like that TikTok star that just got arrested, the popular one,
Oh, yeah.
who made the Skyrim L or NPC character like videos and stuff like that. He was making a bunch of videos. He got, was it for killing his girlfriend?
I think so. Yeah.
And then now, but his state does the death penalty. So it's like,
Mhm.
damn, like you didn't understand. Like you should, if you're going to do that, not condoning doing it, but Jesus Christ, you did it in a
Yes.
state that still has the death penalty.
Yeah, you're just asking for it. Maybe he wants to die. Again, when he's not thinking clearly. Obviously, he's probably like, and the funny thing is, like, you talk about TikTok. I think that in general, like, there's a lot of people out there that are, they're getting a lot of views for things, and it's not because that particular person is obviously not worthy. It's not the word for it. It's not like, hey, this person's incredibly talented and we should watch all the things that they do. It's the moment in time that they created the content. It was a good thing for people and for people, and was consumed. But long term, what are you going to do with your TikTok fame?
Well, people
Like,
now are developing like TikTok syndrome, where the UK just did a study on amount of like young girls that are coming into their medical offices and they're suffering from tics from watching too many TikTok videos. And I thought that was a fucking joke article, but no, it's an actual thing that's actually going on. It's something like, I guess with the amount of bursts that this thing does, they're randomly just having these bursts. Yeah.
So it's they've got a TikTok tick.
Yeah, so it's like a tick with a TikTok. It's not like a fucking like a Tourette's thing, but I started looking at it like, does the government do that too? Because I'm suffering from like schizophrenic bouts, like where I'll be talking and have these schizophrenic rages. And I think it comes from learning about like the government and all the bullshit in the world. You start wondering what the fuck's real. I'm looking under rocks and shit, thinking that every single one of them is holding a secret key to the fucking house. And I'm like, I know this isn't true, but that happened back in the day. They had rocks where people would hide their keys in.
Underneath it, yeah.
You start going around like, is it every fucking rocks? The next thing you know, just chucking rocks and knocking on them, trying to see if they fucking hold a key.
Well, I don't know that I've ever like had gone on a rock turning adventure, but I certainly understand the idea of the government like potentially doing some crazy shit. And look, they're not. Obviously, you mentioned at the very beginning, we were talking about the system, right? Is the system broken? How do we have laws where those laws are applicable to all people? And laws are like, it's funny because like part of what I do for work is I have to adjudicate policy stuff, partly because of my background, right? So like if I've got two salespeople that are like, I should have this deal, and this other person's like, I should have this deal, I have to kind of get in there and be able to look at the evidence and see who should be, based on what the policy is, quote unquote, the law, who should be getting it. So it's the applicate. And a lot of times they're like, well, why don't you just put this particular thing or this particular situation in the policy? And the answer I always give them, which is the same for law, which is you have to make laws specific enough that you can understand the intent of them, but you have to also make them pliable enough to be able to use them situationally, to say, well, in this particular circumstance with these extenuating circumstances, this is why it should go one way or the other. There should be pliability in it because it's not that you can't have black and white. I mean, murder is don't kill people, right? Like, but like, and that's 100% true, except if someone comes into your house, is breaking into your house, you have the right to defend yourself.
But you can still go to jail for that.
You could still go to jail for it. It's just going to be a different kind of a crime. It depends. Like if you're in imminent danger, if someone comes into your house and has a gun and is threatening your family and they take a shot at you and you shoot back, you're not going to jail for that.
So with my algorithm, I've been getting on some weird, like Facebook Reels showed me this video of a guy that was like unlocking his house, and you hear a dude yelling around the corner, like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm going in my home." He's like, "Hey, come over here for a minute." He goes, "Nah, man." And he's like trying to get into his fucking house, and the dude comes around the corner, and the one dude, like, I mean, in a split second, he pulls out a gun, like, I mean, it gets it about like where the gun's like right above his chest, like he's about to rip it around, and the one dude starts pulling out a gun like to shoot him. I guess there was like some type of thing, a sketchy neighborhood or something.
Yeah, obviously.
And the dude shoots him, and it was on film. Like you see the guy drop. It wasn't fake shit. That was a real fucking person dying. You saw the whole body go stiff and just fucking fall. And then the reel was over. It was from the little doorbell cam, like the ones that they have like that.
Ring cams, yeah.
So I'm watching. I'm like, what do you do in that scenario? Is that defending yourself because a sketchy guy comes around the corner asking you what you're doing, like trying to get you to stop for a second so he can pull out a gun and rob you?
You're on your property. You're trying to get into your house. Someone now is pulling a gun on you,
but it's an apartment complex. So is that still technically your property? I thought your property only counts when you get in the room. Everything else is like your lawn.
Yeah, sort of. But like if it's like travel into your property, like I'm trying to enter my home and someone is now menacing me or pulling out a gun to be able to do God only knows what, and I am armed and I'm allowed to be armed. That's the other part of it. If I'm not supposed to have that gun, that's a problem. Like
we live in a world where if someone took their gun out in an alleyway and told you need to suck their dick, and then when you start doing that, you bite their dick, you get assault charges.
I mean, it potentially. I mean, but it's stranger things have happened. But again, it comes down to what I said earlier, which is on the surface, logically, you would say, well, if someone is forcing me to suck their dick at gunpoint, and I bite them to get away from them because I don't want to suck their dick, clearly they're forcing me to do it, then I should be able to say, well, that was self-defense because you're assaulting me, sexually assaulting me, right? And you're forcing me, you're raping me.
But no damage was done to you, only mentally maybe because you had to suck a dick.
Doesn't matter. But that is damage.
Maybe you got a pubic hair in between your size 32 molar.
Oh yeah, or you have like a pubic hair into your throat. You ever get like a hair in your throat? You're like
no, because I'm never sucking dick.
I'm not saying that. I'm like an eyelash or like a wayward beard.
I know how you get your hair so slick, you motherfucker.
So, but the point being, exactly, that's how I say. But if that was a case, usually if someone's going to lose a case like that is because somebody made a horrible mistake, right? Like the procedurally something was done incorrectly,
or an unhappy accident.
Oh yes. Oh, whoops. I didn't know I'd like this so much. Yeah, no, but like you get my point. Like it could be it's usually because you have a bad lawyer or someone fucked up. They didn't get the right evidence, or it's all circumstantial evidence. And it's tough because in those cases, it's like people do get off. That guy got off apparently. But they get off on the charge. They don't get in trouble, or if it does flip and say, well, you assaulted me. You wanted to suck my dick. I didn't have a gun. Where's the gun? Prove that I had a gun, prove that I put it to your head, prove that you didn't want to suck my dick. That's a hard thing to do. If you don't have unless that person has a history of that kind of shit. So I could see your point. It could flip on you. Let's say that guy, okay. So let's take it down a further rabbit hole since we're in it. Let's say that the guy that was being forced to suck the other guy's dick was gay. Okay. Let's say he came out of a gay club and this dude was in the alley and did have a gun and did force him to suck his dick.
What do you need to force him though?
But just because you're gay doesn't mean you want to suck every dick in the world. I'm guessing.
I know, but that's what the defense is going to bring.
That's exactly right. Like, yeah, well, he said he met you in that club and that you came on to him. And so now it's unless you again have evidence, unless I have some kind of evidence, I'm not going to be able to prove that didn't and that's where it sucks for people like that and victims. And that's why the system isn't perfect. There's no way. We don't have like minority report technology where I can have the little floating psychics tell me what's going to happen and then try to prevent the crime. there's nothing that exists that's going to help us understand the truth all the time. There's always going to be ambiguity in it unless the evidence is rock solid, which is why in capital cases you have to have it's beyond a reasonable doubt. It's most likely based on the evidence, based on the information, based on what we've seen that this person did it.
But the claim of beyond a reasonable doubt, it's like,
Right.
how do you know though? How many of those times was it a mistake? Like people say beyond a reasonable doubt that I've
Sure.
experienced being abducted by aliens. Now, are they necessarily wrong? No, but maybe they have some type of distorted reality in their head from a fucking dream that they had.
Or maybe they did get abducted by aliens. We just didn't we just not ready to accept that as a real. But that's what you say. Reasonable is the word. Reasonable means, is this something that we can logically wrap our heads around based on the truth that we know in the world, like that. It's like, hey, I didn't kill that person. An alien came down and killed them. All right, well, that's not reasonable. Like we don't know that aliens exist. We don't know that an alien would come down, and if they did exist, come to kill somebody. And why did they specifically kill the person?
Well, what happens if it did, and then now you're labeled as a liar in front of everybody?
Well, it's funny too, because they have polygraph, and polygraph's not something that is
those aren't even accurate anymore.
But they're not accurate, and they're not accepted. They're not admissible in court. You can't really use it.
Neither is blood splatter analysis as well.
Well, blood splatter can be used.
No, the Innocence Project. I listened to a whole episode where the guy actually exposed that because, like, I guess something. There was a bunch of cases where people, like, there was a guy who just moved to this country. He was technically an illegal immigrant, but he was staying with this girl, and the girl nobody knew about had like a psychotic rage thing, and she ended up killing the mother and then the father, and then blaming the guy. And since he didn't have any citizenship or anything like that, they automatically assumed that he was only been there 2 weeks, and there had to be this murder that just happened. So they put him in jail. He was in jail for like 2 years. Turns out, like, they try to get him on the fire match thing, like the match thing. They dismiss that because the whole, the torch, whatever the hell, it's a whole scenario. I might be missing out some key details, like when it comes to like burning the place down because the bodies were inside there and everything.
Right.
Like
well, you're talking about like where the actual
well, so what
point is.
Like what I'm remembering is he came in and found that the mother was dead. It was like a trailer park home type situation. Found that she was dead. Knew that he was going to get blamed for it, and he tried to leave. When he was leaving, he was caught, like, I think down the road from this scenario happening. It turns out it was the daughter because the whatever type of thing that they were trying to label him as, it only takes like, I think a total of like 12 hours or 14 hours to be able to do that specific type of crime analysis type thing. It's a thing you can do an hour a day a week or something like that.
Right.
Like I said, this is a long time ago I heard this, so I'm missing out probably some key details, but they actually proved that, the whole, it was this match that started the fire. That whole category of analyzation for that's acceptable evidence is now proven wrong. So is blood splatter analysis as well too, because somebody looking into a room, grabbing a swab of blood and being like, this is this person's blood, and saying it's so wrong, because in that scenario, this woman had been slashed and there was blood fucking everywhere. And it turns out there was a mix of the daughter's blood in there as well too. It turns out that it was the daughter that fucking did it. So they were just trying to look for someone. He was covered in her blood. Well, it doesn't fucking mean anything.
Well, I think that part of the challenge that police have is it's really two things if you think about it. The first thing is, and this based on historical and really it's evidentiary, that if you don't figure out who's committed it, like we use murder as the example. If you don't, they say first 48, there's a show about it. If you don't figure out, like, basically and have an idea of who did it in the first 48 hours, every second, every minute after that, you're less likely to find out who did it. Right? Your evidence is the freshest. That's why there's a lot of cold cases out there, because
then
a lot of those
if the first 48's a fucking show, then how is Brian Lauder on the fucking TV for a month and a half? And people are like, it's inconclusive that this is him. And I'm like, we think it's him. I'm like, how the fuck? Have you followed that? Because I don't know the whole details to that.
Not as much. Are you talking about the what's it called?
Oh, you said Brian Petito.
Gabby Petito taste. I've seen some of it. I haven't gotten like really, really deep in it. I just know that it looks like, based on the fact that he actually killed, I think he killed himself, or he was dead. He showed up dead.
But people are saying it's like a false flag thing, like it was a government type thing.
Well, I mean, again, like this, it's the conspiracy theories. Like, do you want to believe that? I don't know that he was actually.
See, this is the bad part about having a background in your video, is that if that is your dog barking, alerting you that there's a person with a gun inside the home and you get shot, I can't see them because of your fucking background.
No, well, I'm upstairs in my studio, so the likelihood of them coming up here and me not hearing them tromp up and my kids and my wife and my dogs would be freaking out way more if it was somebody they didn't know.
Or from a lawyer perspective, I'm analyzing now is
Mhm.
maybe your family paid the killer to come in and kill you
and kill me.
specifically.
Yeah, they were tired of my podcasting.
You
ways.
made her
Fuck
go to
this guy.
bed and she
Yes.
didn't, your daughter didn't want to deal with it anymore. You said
Yeah,
no
exactly.
Halloween trick-or-treating.
That's right. That's right. I admonished her for her poor behavior, and now she's in, because she can't get her miniature Milky Ways. I'm going to get shot. Great.
That dad tax coming for you.
Well, what I'd like to know is like where you get the money to hire this person, because usually you're hit me up for like $3 for Robux or Roblox or whatever they're
that just
called.
shut down.
Roblox did?
Yeah, it's a big thing that was trending is Roblox is shut down and people are taking memes like, sorry that we're gone. Good luck. Fuck your money as like a joke. But they have this thing saying we'll be back soon. And apparently Roblox is all shut down and everyone's like losing their shit. I was like, I played this game a while ago, like when I was like 15 or 13. And I was like, it wasn't fucking fun. You had to spend money on everything.
Well, that's like it's a look again.
Are you looking up on your phone?
I was just looking up to see if if they came back on, because it says when will it be back up, and it was like it's been down for over 24 hours. So I don't know what happened there, but
it scared me because you know how much money I've invested in fucking Dragon City on my phone, where I'm like, imagine if that app just fucking went away. I would lose all my shit. Would they have to pay me back the money that I spent into that thing?
No, because you had it was purchased at the time of entertainment. You've been able to use it. It doesn't matter. They could shut down tomorrow and you would have no recourse.
God damn it. The only thing that would be acceptable is if the person who created the game and runs it got shot in the head.
There you go. Well, it's possible. Again,
knock on wood, Chris. Knock on wood. Spent $200 something in that game. I've been playing it for 8 years, bro. So
that's a long time.
That's like people go, why would you spend money on a game? I was like, I've been playing it for 8 fucking years. It's not like I'm going to fucking stop tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm addicted. So but it is like interesting. People and the accessibility.
Most people suck a dick, get addicted. I'm fucking addicted to Dragon City. I don't think that's a bad addiction.
Yeah, or maybe you have to, because you're low on cash, you have to suck dick to get money to fund Dragon City.
I'm a functioning addict.
Fair enough. That's okay. There are people.
I don't think I would ever suck dick for a $2.99 gem pack.
I don't know. What if it was like, maybe it was like what it was like a $20 gem pack? It was going to last you for a while.
Upping the price. If they a $1.99 gem pack, I'd probably fucking do it. That's a steal.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a big fat gem.
They always label me with these deals. They're like deals just for you, and then I look at it, it's like $70 for 2,000 gems. I'm like, fuck that. And then it's like $199 for 600 gems. I'm like, that's a good fucking deal.
I could take that. I'll take those gems. Yeah, it's interesting. Like we live in a world now where the monetization of those kinds of games has never been more apparent. Like the amount of money that you spend on that, if you really looked at it, you probably get sick to your stomach. Like, why am I spending money on this thing? But it's actually, it's entertaining. If you enjoy it, then well, I don't give a fuck. Like, go ahead, spend the money on it. I guess, who cares? It's up to you. It's if you are enjoying yourself, Dragon City away, my friend. I got no problem with that.
That's kind of how I sit with people that go golfing. Like, I don't ever want to fucking go golfing, but I get it. And I understand that people go fucking golfing as a form of just having fun.
Well, people are going to like what they're going to like. And you're not going to be able, especially, you have a pandemic, talk about the amount of money that was increased in gaming during that period of time. There must have been so much more spent because you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. So
what are the top streaming platforms with video? Can you name them?
For video, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime.
Stop right there. You just said the 3 basic ones.
Yeah.
Now imagine if they go, or I saw a meme picture someone put up. I'll have to check on his Facebook thing right here. But if you spell out Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, what are the first letters of both of those? All of those.
Well, so you have Netflix is N, Amazon Prime is A, and Hulu is H. Nah.
So my buddy put up a picture. I'm looking at a story right now. So it says film crews, we want humane working conditions. Our employers, NAH.
Yeah, well, listen, but
a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I love it. Now it is interesting because you hear stories about people in Amazon not having good working conditions, having to piss in a bottle because they're driving around delivering packages and stuff like that. And it is
good old Bezos.
Bezos, good old Jeff B.
Well,
He's doing
Mark Zuckerberg's changing fucking Facebook to like Meta or something.
Meta. Yeah.
Did you see that
It's
video of him with he was showing an interview of his house and there's Sweet Baby Ray's on his fucking back shelf in his house and everyone's like, is that Sweet Baby Ray's? And then it's a chop up video of
yeah.
him talking about Sweet Baby Ray's in a barbecue video that he was doing. He said it like 80,000 fucking times. We're like, man, Zuckerberg loves Sweet Baby Ray's so much he puts it on a fucking decoration for his inside of his house.
Right. It's a big fan. I like Sweet Baby Ray's. It's not bad barbecue sauce.
I don't do any
good.
sauces.
No, so you said that before. You have very
hot sauce.
Very plain, very specific kinds
basic
of
shit.
Basic shit. That's the way you like it.
I don't want to
okay.
fucking, I don't want any special stuff added onto my stuff.
No special sauce.
No
Nothing. Nothing.
It's G Love and special sauce.
Oh, so interestingly, Garrett, that's G Love, grew up where I grew up.
Yeah,
and we knew him. So like, he's
sorry.
What's that?
Sorry.
No, he's a good guy. He wasn't a bad dude. But it was just interesting because like he came from like Avalon, which is like right where I grew up, like down in Cape May. So the
way you said it was like he became a piece of shit.
No. He actually, it's interesting because like G Love, he had that one album, right? His first album, which was extremely popular and very different music wise. And then he had like, I believe like some of the music ended up on a Coca-Cola commercial, but then you never heard from the guy again. Like, I don't know what happened to him. But he probably is still touring around. The interesting thing about musicians,
I saw him when I was, I think 17, 18.
Yeah. He's probably still doing it. It's just, the interesting thing is like, you have those moments. We talked before about fame. You have those moments where like you're, oh my God, I'm like super popular and super famous for that moment or for that period of time, you're 15 minutes, so to speak. And then all of a sudden you go into like this subcategory of sort of famous still because people know who you were and know who you are, but not going to be necessarily on that level until you have something else like really big pop. But you could still you could still like make tons of money just by going on touring and doing the stuff that people liked that you did. It's like all those bands from the 80s and the 90s that still tour around and make tons of money just by rehashing the stuff that was popular when they had that 15 minutes.
Well, it's like Mariah Carey. They just dust her off on a certain season when that one fucking Christmas song comes on. That's when they start playing that is when everyone starts to remember her. I heard the best interview from a rapper where the rapper was like, why don't you ever do a lot of tours in the US anymore? And he goes, you want me to be honest with it? And like, yeah, give me an honest answer. He goes, because nobody wants to hear from us old rappers. The only people that want to hear from us is from overseas where the culture, like they're listening to Kiss over there. That's a big thing when all those Russian kids come over here, they're wearing like Def Leppard shirts and all that type of stuff. Not the trendy Hot Topic shit that's over here, but those kids are actually in love with that fucking music because that's what the culture slowly is going over there, and they're getting all like the stuff, and we're already on like 50,000 steps ahead. I mean, it's very strange because like the newer stuff now, I start to look at like, yeah, there was fame, like Kiss fame. But then there's like Def Leppard fame. Then there's like, if you look at now, Lil Nas X. That I've heard so many people that I look up to that go, oh my God, it was so crazy. We were in the same hotel as him. I'm like, whoa, like you start to realize there's another fucking level of fame after that where it's like, dude, where's the ceiling at? Like next thing you know, it's going to be some person on Roblox fucking.
Yeah, exactly. Fun. Exactly. Well, here's the, you mentioned about the people overseas. So one of the interesting things that Jiggy, the comedian that we just interviewed a couple weeks ago,
Jizzy J.
What's that?
Jizzy J.
His name is Mark Jig. I can't say his last name. He said, just call me Jiggy. Jigjarian.
Jar Jar Binks.
No, he was much funnier and much more interesting than Jar Jar Binks. But he said when he was, God, fucking guy sucked. Stupid fucking Jamaican rabbit monster thing. It's very disturbing. But he said when he went over and did the Fringe Festival in England, there was like the fans over there they just want to be fans. They want to like take pictures with you. They want to get something signed. They want to enjoy a show. But in America, those same people that come to see you want to be your friend, which is a different cultural thing. It's like, hey, I want to have access to you. Overseas, it's not the same thing. They don't really see that. They say, I understand there's like a boundary. I understand that you're famous. I'm coming to see you. You're going to entertain me. I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. I'm not expecting anything more than you entertaining me.
Well, it's the entitlement thing that this country has. I have it too.
Yeah.
My buddy, who was on my show recently, Mikey Bowser, he went to go see Joe Rogan in Pennsylvania. And I was like, wear your fucking podcast shirt. Like, wear the out of the blank shirt. I was like, just fucking scream it. I was like, make a card, send him my links, whatever the hell you do. Just give it to Joe Rogan. Once he sees my shit, he'll be like, well, this kid's like, he's got cranking out a lot of content. And he goes, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'll wear the shirt. And his buddy listens to my show and he was like hitting people in the arms, like, hey, check out this podcast, which was nice of him. But I look at it like it is that type of thing, thinking that you're special, that you're going to somehow translate over to the fact that they'll be like, oh my God, this has something I'm interested in. They don't really give a shit. And that's kind of with overseas. Those people know they don't want to be their fucking friends. They like the music they do. They'll support, but they're not going to want to go and try and be like, hey man, can I get a beer with you? And then get upset when the guy says, no, I don't want to get a fucking beer with you.
Or they linger longer. Like, so they're sitting there like, and you're like, I think that's what he was saying. Like Mark was saying was, he was like, I'm okay. Like, I want to interact with the fans, but there's a point in which I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like I did the show, especially like stand-up comedians in New York, because the way that they continue to hone their craft is they go spot to spot to spot to spot to spot. So they're literally on the subway, they're in a cab, they're going to the next thing, they're going to the next thing. They have 10-minute spot here, 10-minute spot there, just to continue to work in front of crowds and work their material out, get the timing, get the pacing, get the beats of the jokes, whatever. But I can't sit around and talk to you for like, and even at the end of the night, I'm not going to sit around and like hang out with you. I might say hello to you. I might, interact with you a little bit, but then like know when to go, because it's not going to be a situation. Now, we as people that like are also in the entertainment business, because we are, podcasting is entertainment, and have guests on that those people we could talk to, right? We could say, hey, guests that I've had on, I talk to them, like I still talk to the different people that we've had on, because I'll probably want to have them on again if they were really good. And
I haven't been on fucking once.
Well, you can come on. You can come on whenever you want.
I said, send me a date. You've never.
I'll send you a date. I will do it. I'll do it now.
Kevin's one-sided relationship.
No, I will have you on 100%. You will be on in December. How about that?
Jesus
I guarantee
Christ.
You. Well, I'm booked through November and
early release every day. How the fuck are you booked so far?
we have a lot of guests coming up. We have really good ones, but and you will be in that cadre of really good guests. Come in mid-December. We'll get you on in mid-December.
Around
Christmas time. It'll be the gift that keeps on giving.
I'll be done podcasting by then.
Are you quitting
at 1,000? Is
that what your plan is? You're going to quit at 1,000?
This is going to be my last episode.
Really? You're done?
You're my finale, and you opened up with pedophilia, you piece of shit.
That's right. Why are you quitting?
No, I'm not done.
Oh, you're just lying.
I think I want to take a break, but I don't know yet. I might just keep on going, see how long the streak can go. Because I think I've gotten a lot of like comments about like people asking about that. And I was like, I mean, just from friends of mine who enjoy listening to the show. And it's like, I'm not saying it's popular or anything. I'm just saying with my friends, people that I know that have been on, they just really like that. Like they listen as much as they possibly can. And it's just, I don't know. Because I like, it's weird because I started thinking about it. Once I hit 1,000, would 1,001 be like starting back over from the beginning? Like, what's the next goal? Another 1,000? I was like, I don't want to be stuck in a rut, but I also want to I would like to win a Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not saying I'm going to get that from a podcast, but I'm saying like, I don't know. Maybe I would encounter someone that would be like, I don't know. I want to fucking end up talking to Bill Gates.
Well, he's
going to be my 1,000th episode, Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill. Well, good luck.
How many fucking sweaters do you own, man?
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Do you have this like a closet full of them? Are you constantly cold? Why are you wearing sweaters? Move to a warmer climate. I think that it depends. If you're getting joy out of it, you keep doing it. If you feel like it's not work,
the guest thing just needs to be easier, and I'll enjoy doing it. I think that's the most tasking process, is trying to get because then I have someone that I'm going to probably be reaching out to is going to listen to this episode. They're going to say no because the first 5 minutes talked about pedophilia. Even though they didn't listen to the whole conversation, it doesn't matter. You hit that certain trigger. I was just on Twitter, and there was an article or a person that posted up a picture of an email that was sent to them, and it was like a racist email, and the person happened to be of that race that they were saying, like, you can't say this, it's all about it. And it was like this racist email. But then I'm looking at the picture more closely, but it's got over 800,000 retweets and a bunch of quote tweets like, fuck this is wrong with academia, it's racist. Now, I don't know the whole specifics on academia being racist, but I looked at this picture. They had fucking Microsoft Word open up, And I go, did you type that email up and send it to yourself? Because you're not blasting the person that sent you that email, which is what everyone would fucking do. And all
Yeah,
I
they would
did
say,
was
this is the person that said this horrible shit.
all I did was comment that, and they fucking blocked me. And I'm like, so what's the fucking truth? Were you just signaling, red flagging to everybody that would retweet your shit? And that's why I say it goes back to the beginning of what we are talking about. It's so hard to know what's fucking real because everyone's trying to find their thing of stardom and to get a bunch of people that would support you. And sadly, the way of doing that is to get a bunch of people outraged over something that is rightfully supposed to be outraged on. But then that distorts the whole fucking world. There was the Lincoln Project thing. Did you see that? It just happened recently with all the politicians. The guy, so I might get this wrong, but it was a guy who was running against another guy who set up a bunch of people to stand out in front of his bus and say that he was racist to show that all Republicans are racist, but it was paid for by a Democrat to do that, to really distort the perception that Republicans are racist and they're not.
Yep. Yes. I mean, that's essentially what it was. It was they found out that these people were basically going, they were an I believe it was like an anti-Republican or anti-Trump type group that were basically, again, protesting something that was, it was a stunt. It was like people that were getting in front of this bus and saying that, like, you know, it said a whole bunch of nonsense about it, like made it seem like these people were, you know, that they were racist when they really, you know, weren't. Like, I think that it was all when you, and that's to your point, that is the problem. When you part of it is accessibility, right? So everyone's got this information. They've got this ability to be able to get their information out there, and everyone's got a similarly respected voice until it's not. So if I'm going to say, oh, well, this person is racist, or a group of people are setting it up like it's a fucking flash mob to say that this person's racist, it's, you wouldn't know, right? Because you're gonna be like, I don't know if they're, it looked real at the moment, and people that are going to take it like not with any context or do any additional digging will take it at face value without knowing the veracity of what was being claimed, nor do they understand who's doing it and what their motives for doing it were. They don't really care about that shit.
Did you ever see the after Fauci was accused of those Beagle things with I don't know if you saw that with all the Beagles that were going on, the way that they recovered, did you know what I'm talking about? Okay, the way they recovered was, it was like, this picture wasn't actually from the experiments, but it is going on. That's how they recovered from that. And I was like, so it's not, the picture's not accurate, but the actual accusation is. The guy retweeted a thing about Kerry Mullis, and I don't know if you know who Kerry Mullis is, but he's the guy that invented the PCR test that we use for COVID. He created that on LSD, but it wasn't designed for this. So there's an interview from 1993. I recommend. I've sent this to like all my friends, but it's from 1993 about AIDS. Back when Fauci was saying that everyone is going to like get infected with AIDS, and then it was going to be this giant pandemic thing, just like kind of what happened with COVID, where it was kind of like everyone's going to die. They started to realize that necessarily HIV and AIDS, there might be a specific difference. But he said some words about Fauci that I'm going to play right here and see if I can get this going. But he said some stuff about Fauci where this was in 1993, and you look at it now, it's like 100% of what's going on now. So this is what it is.
All right, let me hear it.
Like Tony Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people who pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
And right when he said that in the interview, there was a glass window behind him and lightning hit. And
creepy.
And it was just hearing him talk, like say things thoroughly. He's like, when did we ever start doing things without a basis of evidence? And where did we start getting those evidence from? He goes, to all these people that are running the government. He starts talking about the NIH and everyone in the Eco Health Alliance and all the people that are now getting like sentenced and are getting like charges now for lying about a bunch of shit happening now. He died before the pandemic. So that was very fucking crazy as well, too. But he started talking about like, we have this person that's in charge of here, and they've been known to lie. They've been to do all this shit. And you start seeing unfold now where you start looking at it like, man, like what the fuck is like, it's a very weird 2-hour interview I'll have to send you where I started thinking things differently. And he goes, I'm a libertarian. And that's what he says. And I'm like, okay, well, I would say I side with probably more libertarian stuff too. But he starts going like, the basic stuff is like, now if I'm a doctor, but I'm a
He's a
scientist.
biochemist.
He goes, I told my mother if she was, says something, she is suffering from something, if I told her ways to fix it, she wouldn't believe me because I'm her fucking son. I'm not a scientist. But then she goes to her doctor who has a lesser PhD or a lesser grade in science than I do, and
Mhm.
she'll listen to everything he fucking says. This is the
Right.
same thing that's happening now. And you start looking at it like, oh my God, like and he developed the test. He goes, this was never meant to be used for this. And you start looking at it like, it's just the weird. I don't want to get into the pandemic talk, but it's just so fucking eerie how, like, you're starting to see rehashes where I'm like, we're on a fucking loop. Like, society is just going on the technology's changing, the environment's changing around us, but it's the same exact shit where I'm like, you could be like, there could be someone that we look to as a god now that's basically a modern day Aristotle. Like, there's
Mhm.
quotes from Plato that I've heard that were like, you're listening to like, I never even heard this quote, but it's 100% true. Like, it's something that you would see on a fucking motivational poster or something that was given to some celebrity. Like, when you see those fake
Mhm.
photos, like Miley Cyrus said that all men are created equally. Like, that's fucking Martin Luther King. What the fuck
Yeah.
are you
Yes.
talking about?
Yes. She repeated what somebody else said, someone much smarter. But like your point is that it is cyclical, and I think that that's just the way it is, because and that's what we were talking. This is an odd correlation, but it does make sense. We were talking on the podcast about reboots, because we were talking about, and that's what I chose to defend when I was ungrinding my gears. It was on reboots because if you think about it, film for the purposes of public consumption has been in existence for over 100 years, 116 years, something like that. So it's not hard to believe, especially now you have film where you have movies, and now TV, and the amount of TV and the amount of content that's being pumped out, to think that you're not going to retread over the exact same themes is crazy. It's because nothing, as much as the world has changed, a lot of the things that we, day-to-day stuff, and a lot of the same, they're all the same things. I either am married, I'm not. I've got kids, I don't. I have a job, I don't. I have a job that I like, I have a job that I don't like.
How do you
Like
have
there's,
kids and then not?
well, I'm saying that either you do or you don't. Like
Oh.
it's one or the other. So I'm saying like it's the themes of, like think about movies like, hey, it's a rom-com. So I'm gonna meet somebody in a really unexpected way, and then we're gonna fall in love. Okay, great. But that's been done to death, but it's been done 1,000 different ways, and people go and still consume it because they like it. People are generally simple in that way. They want to have something that they can kind of say, okay, the formulaic part of it kind of makes me feel comfortable. I feel okay because I know kind of where it's going. It's the ones that they don't want to people don't want to have to think. Entertainment's supposed to be an escape. So to think that they wouldn't do things that are repeatable is crazy. But it also roots back to the fact that the world, as much as it has changed, is also pretty much the same. And all
Yeah.
the same things have happened that have happened in the past that are happening now. It's just different degrees of that, and how potentially, again, technology changes and all that, but mostly the things are the same.
There was a Joe Rogan podcast a long time ago. I think when he was around 900 or something like that. So it was about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a guy who was a Baltimore police chief that was on his show talking about how, like, so there's this crime rate from 2017 or 2018 that came out, and he goes, then we have this one from 96 or 97, and it's the same exact crimes, same
Mhm.
exact percentages in the same exact neighborhoods, where he starts showing that it's cyclical, it's the same
Yep.
shit, just a different time. And it's like when you
Yep.
start looking at it, like, I think people look at the technology that we have and consider like we should be way more evolved past that. I'm like, yeah, but you're basing that the only thing that's growing is really technology. The minds of people are actually in a way getting dumbed down a little bit as well too. Our attention spans are fucking shot. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what else is being increased. I think with every increase comes a decrease in some section. And I think what we consider, like, now that we're all kind of noticing a decrease in communication when it comes to now being artificial, not really used with our mouths anymore, it's more with our technology or our thumbs, that
Mhm.
has a decrease in a social aspect, which I don't know if we're necessarily capable of handling that decrease. And I think that's what everyone's starting to wake up to now.
Well, you mentioned earlier about Twitter as an example, right? So Twitter, the problem, the inherent problem in accepting information in Twitter is very similar to the problem that you had with the judge when you were going into your case, which is I can't really tell in the written word. I'm just going to get the written word, and then now it's my job to interpret that written word and figure out what that's supposed to mean to me. If you told me the story about the racist email, right, and I was looking at you and you were talking to me, I'd be able to make a much easier judgment on whether or not it seemed legit to me. And then in talking further to you, your credibility would be built up or not based on my additional conversation with you. That moment, that snippet in time without context, without the visual cues that you would use in body language and vocal tonality makes it impossible. But what people do is they see something and they're like, okay, I follow this person, so obviously they're not going to lie to me.
That's not a stupid statement of me saying, why wouldn't you put that person on blast? How much of society is about putting that person on blast? The fact that that person specifically took a picture and made sure that the top of it was not involved into the picture, didn't show the internet browser open, only showed the Word document open, where you start really, is this like a fake flag thing? But everyone hops on that thing of retweeting it because they just read the race stuff and then they're like, I gotta retweet it immediately.
You're gaslighting them. You're gaslighting people. And that's the whole point is like, I want to be able to create a wave of anger or feeling about something. I could do it so easily because
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying,
no.
My whole thing is is anybody actually looking through this shit? Or are they just hopping on things?
No.
There are so many people that'll be like, jump off this cliff, and people will fucking jump off of it. Why did you fucking jump off it? You didn't ask any questions. You didn't look through the fucking case. I've talked to my buddy who's a lawyer about this type of shit, and he's like, well, I'm a personal injury lawyer. I'm not this type of shit. I'm like, but speaking from just knowing the law, knowing how shit works, when you're reading something through, just read your fucking contract, man, or you're going to end up giving alimony to someone who doesn't necessarily deserve fucking alimony, considering that you have the kids, you're taking care of everything. They just want free shit. You know, that adjustment of a standards of living. I agree if it's in the case of like, if I'm a person that's like, I want $1 million a week because I was used to $1 million a week, but I'm not making that money. So now I'm incentivizing laziness. You start looking at like, this is why I have an issue with the law, but I see it and I feel like I'm turning into a schizo, man, because I'm seeing this shit. And I don't know if it's because maybe I'm going crazy or everyone else, or I just kind of woke up to the whole factor of like, I start seeing the manipulational tactics. And honestly, I understand the Bezos thing. I understand that because if you think about it, you don't give a fuck about people. You care about your business. It's profitable. And if I'm going to look from a business aspect compared to my personal feelings, the business aspect, which one's going to make me more money? That's how, when you look at the Bezos thing, he's not fucking wrong in doing what he did. It's horrible, but...
Yeah, well, technically he is. There's standards that you have to kind of live by. You can capitalize on things. Capitalism.
Can't they just quit?
They could, but then where are they? Where
he's
they
not
to go?
Forcing them to get a paycheck. He's not forcing them to do these.
I don't disagree with you, but if we have standards in this country and say, well, at a minimum, if you're going to be paying a wage, it's got to be this. Or if there's standards of hours of work and like you have to give people balance, like people will work themselves to death. And we have to put things in place to be able to prevent that from happening.
Okay, so I'm not defending Bezos, but I'm basically attacking what that you just said, which is the fact that people will work themselves to death. Why don't they, like, I've been seeing this picture trend all over the place, which is a person that was like, hey, I need you to work this day. And the guy messages back, say, I specifically said I don't want to work this day. I requested off 3 weeks ago. And the guy goes, doesn't matter. I'm your employer. You're going to work there. I'm not, if you ask me again about working this day, I'm just going to quit. You're going to be without an employee. The person goes, this isn't a question. This isn't a thing. This is what you're going to do. And he goes, well, good luck trying to find another employee. It was probably a fake photo. Someone just texted themselves or something and then put a contact under their different name, but that photo rings true where a lot of people were like 100ing it. I would say try saying 100ing it.
100ing it.
Yeah, it's just a fucking weird thing.
That's a weird thing, yeah.
But people were giving that 100 emoji to it because it rings true. It's like the idea of working yourself to death. Why would you ever work or keep doing something that makes you feel like garbage? I get it because of a paycheck, but it's not like you're never. It's just that idea of like you feel like you're never going to be able to get another job or something. That was the biggest fear for me when I left my job was, is anyone ever going to accept me again? And it's not true. They make you feel like that. It's like being in a judge case where they make you feel fucking guilty, even though you're fucking, and I hate that. I hate someone being pushed into a corner. Nobody puts baby in a corner, but it's so fucked how that shit works and how those tables can turn. It's like when I was watching the Epstein doc, they had psychologists come in reviewing the tape. They go, the thing about a narcissist is they never want to feel like they don't have the power at the table. And you start seeing those fucking things where he was trying to sit there and like, Okay, well, what do you mean by this? And you see him like he was getting uncomfortable when they started like accusing him of like, did the people that saw your dick said it was egg shaped? Is your dick egg shaped? He was like
Right.
getting uncomfortable, not just because he was talking about his dick, but it was because he was losing power in the situation. He was trying his best to like hold his jaw to make sure he wasn't smirking or wasn't like seeing like he was flinching or anything at anything they would say to incriminate
Right.
himself. And he started realizing like there's that feeling of like somehow the system has been set up to always make you feel like you're the one that's kind of wrong or they're never
Right.
in the wrong. Like it's weird how they get that power grab so quickly. That's why it's so fucking enticing when we see a video of a guy that gets pulled over at a stoplight and he knows his rights. He's like, I'm a lawyer. You can't fucking pull me over for this. You can't pull me over. Actually, what's your badge number? I want to make sure this goes in the opposite way. That's enticing for people is because you never see that happen because the system is set up to make you fucking hang by
Feel
your
powerless.
goddamn balls.
Right. You're feeling powerless at all times. And but your point around on the work thing is like, if I'm a person that said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, whatever job you're in, like that person, that employer was unreasonable. That employer, by the way, by law could easily get sued for what they said. Say, hey, I'm forcing you into work. You have to do it or you don't have a job here. Like if I had already had approved time off, you could be sued for that. You're forcing me into doing something I cannot or do not want to do. I have to go to, I have a plan. I got to go. I'm going on a trip. Like, and people do like say, hey, it's a different thing to say, hey, I really would appreciate it if you could work on this day. And because I lost this person on this shift. And if you could do that, that would be great. And I'll give you 4 days off and I'll give you whatever. Like, that's a different thing. But like, I do think you're right in that people feel like, okay, well, if I lose this gig, will I ever find another one? And will anyone ever want me again? So they feel like compelled to do maybe above and beyond what is expected and above and beyond what is reasonable to be paid for the work that they're doing. So like, that's why there's overtime rules. That's why there's, and a lot of laws are changing right now around those kinds of things in states because, there's a lot of people that are just getting worked ground to the basically having no quality of life, getting paid very little wage for a lot of work. And it can physically tax you. It can mentally tax you. It can ruin your relationships. There's a lot of things that happen. Part of like being, you talked about being a lawyer. One of the things that sucks about being a lawyer, especially early on, is that you don't get as much pay as you would think. You work your ass off because you're trying to, especially if you're working for a firm, you're trying to work your way up to being like an associate or a partner. But all the stuff leading up to that is like 90 hours of work a week. You're killing yourself.
When did we start iceberging things? When we look at something and consider its value based on looks rather than what's deep down inside. The reason why I say iceberg is you see the top of it, you never see the whole fucking bottom of it that happens to be 10 times the size of the top.
Right. Yeah. Why have we done that, or how's that happened? I think it's just because you mentioned about attention, right? I need to consume things quickly. So my ability is to essentially I am in that shift. I'm now going to judge books by its cover, by the covers and nothing else. I'm going to look at it at face value and accept it or not. And it's going to be on a whim. It's going to be with no additional information. I'm not going to, if it's something especially that's going to try to gaslight me and I'm upset about that already, and now you're talking about it, the veracity of it doesn't matter. I'm just going to get mad about it. I'm just going to say, oh, that's fucking bullshit. This is what blah, blah, blah. I'm going to look at it at face value. I'm going to look at the top of the iceberg. I'm not going to do any research about what the bottom looks like because I really don't give a shit. The top of the iceberg is what is appealing to me in a certain kind of way where the rest of it doesn't make a difference. Like it could be completely, look, it could be no bottom at all. It could just be a little floating ice cap. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to take it as it is what it is. I assume that there's an iceberg underneath there, a big one. So I'm going to make that mountain molehill into a mountain like that. And then but the crazy part is because of the accessibility of information and the sharing of information and that force multiplier of, well, I've got this many followers and this person's got this many. So when I'm retweeting some 7,000, 10,000 other people are going to see it. And then next thing you know, it blows up. That's how you create more divisiveness in the society, is that you allow those kinds of fires to get fanned. And there are people doing it just either for the kicks to troll or because they're trying to get their point even more across and to get people more on that side and get them even more enraged. That's why there's some kind of a tipping point coming at some point. I don't know when it's going to happen. It's probably not, it's probably closer than we think, where something is going to be pretty
I
nuts.
bet you all social media is going to end up hitting the censorship issue where people are just going to refuse to be on it. It's only going to be specific for elites. Elites are only going to be able to tweet things. Elites are going to be able to only post things. That means if you have a certain amount of follower content, that means you can still have an account, but you don't have enough quality of followers. We don't deem you valuable to be able to do these types of things. Only verified checks are going to be able to make posts about things and be able to share their content, or even be able to create content where I would like it. Facebook and Instagram went down, but imagine I would just want the internet to go away and just watch everyone who's put their fucking livelihoods into these devices go away. That means me included, all my fucking work gone. I don't fucking care at this point. I look at it like I'd rather build something on an aspect of like what is actually deemed value by what I am. And you can't base things off my podcast episodes. You can't base my value off that. People look at me and they go, "You're 23. It's not like I'm going to learn anything from you." Man, I fucking, as much as I'm crazy, I got some insightful shit sometimes. So I look at it like, and it's fucking difficult because I know so many good people out there that would be doing incredible things if they weren't in the situation that they were in. And that comes from just having the materials or knowing fucking someone. This business is all about fucking knowing people. Not even podcasts. The world is.
No. Look, we just literally just talked about this. So one of the things that's been really consistent about the people that we've had on the show is, number one, we've had a lot of people that have a lot of reason to be, and Kevin put that point, like when we were talking about DJ Bonix, like people like that, people like, the comedians that we've had on, musicians, the guitarists from Candlebox, like people like that, they have every right to be like, to have that diva, the complex. And every single one of them were just really good people. They were humble people. And the other thing that was consistent with them, and we're probably just lucky at this point from that perspective. The other thing that was really interesting about those and really consistent about those people is that there was a moment, serendipity, that occurred that allowed them to be able to get accelerated into the stratosphere. Like it's amazing. Like, it's like, hey, I was in this situation in this particular place at the right time with the right person looking at me, who said, like, Jiggy, great example, the guy that we were talking about that we just had on recently. He was doing a spot at a club for like in front of like 15 people. And it was, I think it was like a road manager of the Impractical Jokers was in that club, watched him, thought he would be good. And next thing you know, he's on tour with them. So like, it's just those moments. Like if you don't have those moments, to your point, you're not going to manufacture that. Like somebody has to see you. Somebody has to give you an opportunity. Somebody has to, and then it becomes, depending on the amplification of the voice of that person, is going to be the amount of success that you have. I mean, ultimately it's up to you to sink or swim. If you're not good, then it's not going to end up working out. It'll go nowhere. But if you are good and you've got that talent, and then you have that moment of being discovered, or that moment of catapult that puts you into to whatever next level that you're trying to get into, those two things combined will allow you to be able to get there. But it's very rare that you see somebody that, and maybe impossible, I don't know that I can even think of one example of it, where someone just, worked really hard and then just through a complete natural talent, and because, the entire world saw them as a star of whatever, they became famous. Usually there's a person. They'll always go back. When you ever hear like biographies or something like that, it's always like one person that said, "Oh, I discovered this person." There's always somebody, right? So it very much is a moment in time that has catapulted that to a person, an entertainer or whatever, a musician, an actor or whatever, into the stratosphere. One good audition made the person famous, whatever. But it's very consistent. And that's something that we've seen every single person that we've interviewed. That's the same thing. It's like, oh, I was doing Brian Quinn, the guitarist from Candlebox, was playing a show, and it was like midnight. He was doing it was like midnight, and he was doing the I can't remember, it was some kind of a musical showcase thing. And again, it was like kind of in a crowd, that not a huge crowd. And he played, like he said, that was like the best set we've ever played as a band when he was in that other band. And the guy from Candlebox, the lead singer from Candlebox, was there and said, "You're awesome. I'd love to do some work with you." Now he's in Candlebox. Like, that's how it happens, man.
So what you're saying is I need to pick up the guitar and go to every concert venue I possibly can and just play in the background?
If you're good at it.
I'm not good at it.
Then you probably have no luck. People would just be like, "Ee."
No.
Yeah, you just have to like find the thing that you like, that you do well, and then put yourself out there. Podcasting is tough because there's so much content out there. How do you separate yourself out from everybody else? And if you want to be heard, if that's your goal.
I just picture that guy who had the gun to his head sucking dick in the beginning. Just put on his dick sucking hat. Well, if you're good at it.
Well, let me tell you, this is how I discovered this great dick sucker.
Just one more job.
That's amazing. That's really funny.
All right, Chris, we've been going on for almost 2 hours.
Yes, my friend. Well, it was good talking to you. I hopefully this is not your last episode.
No,
I'm hoping not.
Okay, at least got to get to 1,000. You're coming up before the 1,000.
All right, fair enough. But I would encourage you all to listen to all of Robbie's stuff. Very entertaining, very interesting, thought-provoking, and entertaining. So go
promote Digging in the Dome. That's what you're supposed to do at the end of my shows.
I'm going to. I was
say your links first. Or suck my dick. No, I'm just kidding.
Put your gun to your head. Okay. No. So we have a new website, digginginthedome.com. As you can go there and check that out. Subscribe to our mailing list and see all of our new shit. It's going to be on there. We're going to open up a shop to be able to sell things. So check that out. We're also on Twitter at Digging Dome because somebody took the in the. So I don't know how that fucking happened.
Or maybe it's too long. Messaging those people and seeing if they will give it up.
Actually, believe it or not, I think it's just because the name is too long. Digging in the Dome is probably a bit too long.
I tried to do outoftheblank.com, but somebody owns it. It's my cousin.
Oh, what? Your cousin owns it?
He's been making a site for me for like the past 3 years where I'm just like, bro, if you can just let me have the name, I'll make the site. But he's like, nah, I'm doing it for you. This is my gift to you. I was like, okay. So he's like, once I hit 1,000, I was like, what happens if I'm done at 1,000? Then we just got a fucking site up for no reason.
All right, we got a lot of content for people to go back and check out, dig into that. And then also Digging in the Dome on Facebook and Instagram. We're also on TikTok for some reason. I'm not very good at TikToking, but if you want to get little snippets of what we're doing, check that out. So, and YouTube, obviously YouTube, Digging in the Dome, go check that out, subscribe, enjoy our shenanigans. We have lots of them.
When you said snippets, I just picture like a good SNL skit would be like a guy videotaping circumcisions. Snippets.
Oh, snippets. Little snippets.
How do you get the sound for snippets where it's the director's, the clap of the little thing? He goes, no, it's just we go into a circumcision room and we grab that snip that they do when they snip it. Yeah. That's a snippet.
Oh God, that's unpleasant to think of, the sound of circumcised skin being snipped.
I just picture Drew Carey from Whose Line Is It Anyway when he does a rabbi and he goes, "We give it a cup of the baby with a cup of the hay," and he goes like that with the snips. That's what I just picture.
Yes. Well, we're gonna end on dick sucking. That's what a moil does. It's supposed to suck the blood off of the.
I know. We already said it. YouTube. Yeah. No. My last video, YouTube was like, we're not sponsoring this. I was like, why? Like, because you mentioned this in an hour and a half. Because once this video ends and then I put it up on YouTube, you look up, it'll give you best moments and it'll give you like good topics that we talk about automatically. It'll categorize like certain key moments in the video that you can skip to. And one of those was that. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, it was a good moment. What do you want? But
classic blockbuster podcasting.
That's how we roll, baby.
I hope the internet dies. I would really hate for my kids to see these videos. I'm like, Dad, you were a fucking psychopath. I was like, yeah.
Well, I mean, but they're going to be your kids, so they'll accept you. My kids accept me.
No, they don't.
Sure they do.
They had a hitman come in your house a minute ago.
Well, I mean, the door's locked. They haven't shot me yet. I guess they're waiting outside to piano wire me or something like that. Piano wire. Yeah. All right. If I get garroted because of this, I'll blame you.
All right.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, Chris.
You have a good day. Don't quit.
You know what? Don't have a good day. Have an amazing day.
Oh, don't try to one-up me, you cocksucker.